Well, good morning as we're sitting here at LTV on this beautiful morning of Friday morning.
Afternoon.
Actually, it's morning.
No, it's quarter to one.
Well,
But somewhere
it's
in the world,
morning because I say
it's
it's
somewhere
morning.
in the world, it's the morning. So we're
Yeah,
both right.
that's for sure. Um, what did I? Yeah, Friday morning, borderline early afternoon. Here on August 4th, August 4th, year 2023. Here with the Hello Hello Show. My name is Haim Mizrahi. Continuing with the tradition of public access and the tradition of the Hello Hello Show that's been on the air since 1980, I discovered lately. And not to fail to mention the contribution by the founder, Fraser Dougherty, his partner with immeasurable um, reality of giving and donating and to LTV along the years. And of course, a huge group of people like yourselves out there that knowingly and unknowingly, directly and indirectly, contribute to enhance and fortify the concept of public access. And that's why we're actually here the way we are. With us here this morning, borderline slash early afternoon, Steve Romm.
I think this is about our 460th show.
Yeah, is that what you think? Yeah?
Yeah, I would like to challenge somebody out there.
Like this. Oh my God, no way.
We want somebody to, we want to be heard. Okay,
This is fine.
thank you.
Okay.
Don't want to miss a word.
Yeah, you're never too close to the mic, so don't worry.
So I would like to challenge people out there to look back at our earliest shows and to document your receding hairline and my face and body just sort of sagging over
And,
the years.
and the disappearing of your face altogether.
I mean, yeah, you should really take a photograph of you. How many years ago did we start this? 20 years ago, something like that?
No, this is 23, but the other shows at LTVM, I started in 87.
So we have 23 years of documentary of you and me, and I'd like to see
Yeah,
a
I think
picture
we
from
started about 15 years ago, you and
yeah,
I.
and just put up a picture of what we both look like 15 years ago, what we look like today. We'd probably look at it and say, never doing the show again.
Now you're making me feel like I look like.
No, it
Well,
was better before.
yeah, I was better before. This is the
And
version.
how's this?
And yeah, exactly. And then this is the version of no adjustments
This is what's called.
before.
This is your future, people.
Yeah. No, that's what me paying for your sins is all about. Apropos what we're talking. I mean, when I look at you, and as you know, you're almost, I dare say, uh, deformed almost. No, I should use that. I should say, uh, you're aging accordingly. You should be happy. You don't look your age. You are like a phenomenon. I hope you understand that.
I do understand it because people tell
So,
me that all the
but
time.
I know you like to worry and all this, so you never give yourself a chance to enjoy something good
Well,
about
that's
yourself.
part of growing up with guilt, and there's no way to grow up. I think I always said to friends of mine who uh, both Jewish, non-Jewish, as a non-practicing Jew, I said the one thing the Jews really missed out on was the being able to go in, meet with the priest, and have your sins forgiven. How cool is that? My father, for I have sinned. I don't know
Yeah,
the proper verbiage, but to
yeah,
be say 12 Hail Marys, go out and bury a dog or something like that, and you're
yeah,
forgiven.
yeah,
That's cool. Jews miss that.
yeah. And I don't know. I have no comment on that, but I have a lot of comment on things that I'm responsible for, kind of putting them in place to help me cope with the unlimited possibilities. And then if you have 10 or a dozen concepts out there floating vis-a-vis groups and identities and theses and philosophies, um, they are really shedding over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of scenarios that are up to us to create and to believe in, that are personal, private, unique to us, but not many people can relate to it at this level. That's why I said when we spoke earlier about sin and sinning, you asked a really great question. So what's considered a sin? What's a big sin? What's a small one? uh,
What's an insignificant sin?
yeah, yeah,
What's a major
exactly.
sin? All that sort of stuff. I
What can
agree.
you be forgiven for? What is something that you go to the grave with with you?
But
But but but the thing is, with you, I know that I can talk about the fact that you can take these realizations, whichever they may be, to the studio as a trophy, and then you introduce it to you position it somewhere, and you know that when you're hitting whatever that's slowing you down, or bringing you to a dead stop, you look for salvation. The light comes to you, aids you, helps you, teaches you new tricks, and then you're coping, and you gain experience
I,
unconditionally,
I,
nonstop.
I think that in the context of that, I just want to say, in the comment that I made about Jews not having gotten uh, whatever it is that Catholics have, where they have the forgiveness or their sins are forgiven, whatever it is, in no way do I imply that one has an advantage over the other, or do I mean to insult anybody or
And
anything
even
like
if
that.
they do it, it's not the end of the world.
It's
It's
not
not.
the end of the world,
We can't
uh,
continue to be so
but there
politically
was
correct all the time.
there was a time where being in business, your your parameters of what's right and wrong sort of go out the window because your objective is succeed, make
And we
money,
we
and
would
if and it's cutthroat.
and we would like to think that it should have been otherwise, correct?
Yeah, but it can't be.
But we would
But it
have
can't
these.
be. We'd like it to be nice. We'd like to be able to say to our competitors,
Thank you,
you're a good person,
and not think that it's so
and not
unusual
and
for this to happen.
and yes, I'm competing with you, but I don't want to, I don't want to screw up your business or something like that. But that's not the reality. The reality is that, you could say to somebody, "Oh, I'm never going to undercut your price." And you go back to your factory and you say to all your people, everything's now going to drop by 20%, effective immediately. Undercut our competition so we can get more of a share of the business. And I think what I was trying to tell you in the concept of manufacturing something, there are, and I know somebody who did this. Um, they have a homegrown business. There's nothing wrong with a homegrown business if you have certain parameters and certain goals that you're content to be happy with. Let's say, for argument's sake, your objective is to do $30,000 a month, and you're willing to put in your labor, your time, your effort, your house, your electricity, everything that goes into it, your talent, and produce whatever it takes to get that $30,000 a month. The problem with something with that is that there's a certain area that you can fly in where you're below radar and you don't get noticed. If somebody notices you, you're screwed because somebody will come along and say, "Wow, this guy's been, or woman, this guy has been making something under the radar and he's doing $30,000, $40,000 a month. I can take that and I can turn that into 300, 400, $1 million a month simply by taking it and machine producing
But
it."
you taking it so much ahead. That's
No,
I, I
it's
I was
not
trying
taking
to
it.
relate. I was trying to actually relate to you vis-a-vis this. I don't know if I should even say controlled reality, controlled uh, over energized scenario that you need to always think about how to tame it in order to be able to work with it. I was talking more about like soul. Listen, you know what it means to be active in a studio, to create and to desire to break through all the time, no exceptions. Even when I knew less than I know today, I always wanted, I always thought that this whole thing spells growth. It spells growth. It spells moving on, breaking through. It spells, sensitivity, care, regard, responsibility, experience, passion, 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 all the time, everywhere. You have to have that.
Oh,
We if passion will go away, even temporarily, we will be seriously deciding quickly enough to abandon ship.
I'll give you an example with your passion, with everything else. When we went into the business of art publishing, We had two choices. We could have gone into limited editions, which my friend is in, by the way, in Australia, and he gets a certain amount on a regular basis that comes in business, or do what we did, which was mass produce in the heyday of posters, mass produce posters. And if you had the right artists and you had the right people to mass produce, instead of doing 50 limited editions, we would print 500,000 posters
Yeah,
at a time.
yeah,
So instead of the artist getting $1,500 a month, they're getting $50,000 a month
yes.
or $75,000 a month. I brought the checks home,
Okay.
so I've seen the checks.
Yeah,
I know
I
what
know.
it
I
is.
always knew. Don't
Okay.
continue because they will really know how much money you
So,
have.
so you make a decision along the way whether you want a personal, intimate business where you generate a certain amount of income and you're content with that, or you make the step and you, at a certain point you say, this works. I've got something that's different. And before somebody else comes along, let's say I'm not your friend, okay? I'm just going along for the ride. And I look at your shoes and I go, I know somebody that can do this.
Yeah.
And
Okay, but
and
I
I
got it. But I got to stop you right there 1 second because again, I've been meaning to correct you for the last 1 hour, an hour before we even started the show, trying to tell you that when I told you what I told you concerning my shoes, and maybe I should add whatever it is, I I thought more artistically, more studio-like feel, more smelling the paint, more not being afraid of.
I'm
No, no, but hear me out. Hear me out. The thing is that if your dream is to um, make a million that will be considered a sweet million, as opposed to creating 5 million and being completely out of commission, completely exhausted, completely flattened, completely lifeless.
but
Believe me,
that's not the
you no no wait,
case.
wait, I know what it is
That's
about
not
me.
the
I know
case.
I'm talking about myself now, not you or life or anything in general. Myself, how I hands on see it. Listen, I would love to sell a piece of artwork that someone is willing to give you $5 or $10,000 or 20 or
No,
50.
no, a
No, wait.
hundred thousand
No, wait,
dollars.
we both know, but what I'm saying is, no, of course I would want that, but I'm not governed by it.
I
So
understand.
that means a lot of times you would come to my show in years prior, and it would be like I sold nothing, absolutely nothing, and people have this kind of, oh, sorry for you, uh, and I always took it with a grain of salt. Why? Because if anything, I want to be able to go back to the studio without feeling heavy, exhausted, whatever, but completely ready for the task because I learned my lesson, and there's always a lesson everywhere to be learned. So when I'm trying to tell you about the shoes, it's the thing that I come to you and I say, here's the painting you commissioned, but you didn't commission, but you commissioned, and it's ready. Stuff like that.
There's
So where it takes us is that we remain artists.
You'll always
Yeah,
remain an
no, but in
artist.
the sense that requires you to be an active painter.
If if I took you or an agent took you and said, "Here's a guy who's created a product. It's a product. Okay, forget the art. It's a product.
And by the way, don't let me stop you. Do it.
Okay.
But I'm not saying don't do it. Are you going to do it?
I have to make one phone call. That's all I have to make. Is one phone call. Here's a
I,
product,
by the way,
and we're gonna.
unconditionally grant you with the.
Well, we do a contract, but besides that, here's a product that somebody's selling 25, 30 pair a month. I would like to see 300, 400, 500,000 pair sold a month. If you get a certain percentage, I mean, I don't know what Adidas sells a month in shoes and sneakers, or Air Jordan, or New Balance, or whatever it is, but it's in the millions. It's in the millions. And if you look back and you're still in charge, your hands are on the design, your name is on that sneaker. Haim is on that sneaker. That's what makes the sneaker, or the shoe, whatever it is. If it doesn't have your name on it, it's not the real thing. So the difference is that you're in charge of the design, Everything has changed now. Give you a perfect example. I listen to music every night to go to sleep. I pick my music on my phone. I have whatever the program is, and I pick my music. About 3 weeks ago, I pick up my phone, I turn it on, and it says onto my music station, it says, "Hi, Stephen. I'm your AI, and I've been listening to your music, and I'm going to pick some music for you tonight. Listen to it. Let me know what you think." It's talking to me. I listened to the music, and I got up the next morning, and I thought, that was better than anything I could pick. It put songs in there, it put musicians in
But
there.
you're not telling me anything by saying that.
But
What are
we
you
can take,
telling me? The
what I'm telling
obvious?
you is that we can take your product,
Yeah.
forget what it is, we can take your product and we can make it just as good as you're making it
Okay,
today.
let's do it. I'm just keep on bumping it. Let's do it, but I still want to go back to the sin issue because you said that philosophically it
That's a different issue.
yeah, I know,
So
but
so
it's
let's
all connected. Let me just say that actually uh, its relationship to the variety of religions, the variety of stream of believers in certain things, uh, and what kind of an approach it has to. I always think politically and religiously how my life can be affected if things were to change, not even drastically. You feel it immediately, instantly, big
let
or
me
small.
let me ask you a
so,
question.
but I'm imagining myself uh, being able to be a part of and completely independent within that zone, that I can really freely within it create and speak my own piece. Because there's no recovery. When when you're behind, sometimes you can catch up, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes you just lose things forever. You can't even go back to retrieve it.
I'm going to ask you a question,
You,
which is
you,
going to
you do you understand what this kind of
I understand, but
disorientation that I'm talking about?
let me ask you a question, and this is going to be an affront to a lot of people. Do you think religion over the period of history of humankind has been beneficial or detrimental to the world's growth, to human growth, and to the standards of living that we have in the world? That religion has been a plus or a minus? It's a tough question,
The thing is that no matter which answer I give you,
and
it
it
will
doesn't
be
make any difference
it
what
will be a
religion it
complete
is.
guess. Let me
It,
just check something. I hope it's recording. Okay. Oh, so that's not okay. That's good. Yes. Sorry.
okay.
Um,
So my question
no.
is, it doesn't make any difference what religion is, whether it's Christianity, Judaism, Baha'i, uh, Muslim, Jehovah's Witnesses, every single religion, and not only recent religions going back to Roman religions, Greek religions, Egyptian religions, all religions, going back to the very beginning, if you believe in the Bible, to the very beginning, Cain and Abel. Has religion been a benefit to humankind or a detriment to humankind?
Eh, the only thing I can refer to vis-a-vis trying to answer your question would be that uh, even if it wasn't produced to us by whatever force, maybe the force that is responsible for our creation, or whether it's just an independent force that can tell you, yeah, you still know that the answers at the end of the day will really really rely mostly on you're allowing it to happen. So I mean, can we give ourselves as much credit as we think that we can actually stop or start or slow or uh, accelerate even when we wish to, when it comes to life and living life and creating? There's always one pattern that keeps on repeating itself. Art is a force that leaves its imprint even when it takes place forever.
This
Forever.
this supersedes everything. Suppose Cain and Abel assuming that you believe in Cain and Abel, and suppose you believe in all the things that supposedly took place, suppose Cain and Abel did not kill each other. Suppose Cain and Abel decided to live in the Garden of Eden and did everything conceivable within their power to stay in that Garden of Eden. And that's where they grew up, that's where they had their families, that's where humankind, and I use humankind because it's not mankind, because it's men and women, humankind grew up. They did not grow up with a history from the very beginning of war. The one thing that has remained consistent with humans throughout all of history is war. We're at war today. We've been at war. We've been at war throughout our. The only thing that ties humans together as a common bond is war. As far back as we can go, it's war.
Yeah.
Suppose that hadn't happened in the very beginning. And in the very beginning, the first two brothers said, you know what? We're not going to kill each other. We want to live in paradise. We want to live in a Garden of Eden.
Yeah, but you sound a little too, man. You're melting, and quickly enough, there will be nothing left of you. It's not. I
You
think it's
think
not.
of the potential.
I don't think that that's what it's all about. You know, the thing is,
I don't think that war
the
is
the
productive.
hands-on experience that is artistic by nature, that we know of its nature or its existence, maybe more than average people.
You don't think art would have flourished in a Garden of Eden?
I think, but it's just too smooshy beautiful to
No,
even relate to it. It's almost like a a scenario that we are better off without. You know,
I disagree. I think that if you're at peace, if you're if you have a certain inner
but these things
tranquility,
are after the fact, always. Before the fact is more of the basic things that I'm trying to tell you. You know, yesterday on the show, I spoke about the grid. I said, of course I know about the grid, to create a grid. So you're just laying there like you put that grid that is actually a composition. And it's a composition due to the fact that it's a grid. And you know nothing about composition, but you're creating composition vis-a-vis the level of comfort you have with the grid itself. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is something that you and I know about. Even if we know a little bit about it, we know enough to be impressed and enough to believe and to know that it's important. So what happens? Of course I know about the grid because I'm telling you I know how to start a painting. I know how to start a painting that will serve me in such a way that it will allow me to do all the things because I was kind to it in the early stages. I wasn't, you know, you can be narcissistic. You know, not all narcissism is negative.
I
You
don't think
you can. It's okay to look at yourself and try and evaluate and therefore value who you are for what you are. Understanding that about yourself will eliminate any need
I
of having
don't
any therapies and.
I don't think that painting, and I'm using only painting that includes sculpture, that includes metalwork,
And I do music and I write poetry.
let's just say the arts. Let's just say the arts, the creative arts.
Yes.
Okay.
But sometimes
I
we
don't
want to
think
pinpoint that, for example, we talk about painting because in certain ways it has a lot of power and a lot of effect, and other things it will be
But
music.
a lot of artists created their greatest art out of joy, not out of strife, not out of stress, not out of
And the
adversity,
results show for it.
and out of their joy came their artwork. And I'm thinking of a Seurat painting of a calm scene on the banks of a river, and people are picnicking. That's a beautiful painting. It's a joyous
And
painting.
it can
It's a
also be true
celebration
when
of
you say
life.
out of their paintings came the other way around.
But you don't need strife in order to create that. So think about what would have happened if we had taken an alternate course throughout the history of society from the very, very beginning, where people didn't kill each other, where people didn't go to war. Would have it affected everything that we have? Obviously, it would have. Think of
It
all the
can still.
things,
It's not the end.
but it wouldn't have. I don't think in any way would it have altered the creative. It wouldn't have affected Da Vinci. It wouldn't have affected Michelangelo. It wouldn't have affected Tintoretto. It wouldn't have affected any of the great artists in the work that they created if they were happy when they were doing it. And I think that out of that joy may have come even greater work rather than, I mean, they're dealing with the church and the power of the church saying, maybe we'll give you the money to finish the ceiling. But we're not so sure. We're not happy with this little scene, and the church had say over it. Or your patron said, I really don't want nudity in this. Cover it up.
Yeah, but you know where we are today, okay? And you know that it's okay. Rightfully so, you can enjoy the work of the genius, of the greats of the centuries, but it's short-lived, and that's the way it's supposed to be. You need to visit it periodically, and at the same token, you don't have to make a big deal out of it anyway, because you don't, because you know better, but you know how to enjoy it. Listen, when I look at the greats, I'm humbled, but I don't feel like I don't belong next to them, like I stand no chance, like I this is the way it's going to be. My faith is sealed. I don't think so. I'd like to think more that the ongoingness of I'd like to think that what I do every day, as little as I do, but it's so consistent every day, and I never miss it. I never miss it. It cannot. It's unmissable. That in itself,
I think
earning you the attention that sometimes is important to have.
I think the ultimate question that I'm asking, and it applies to me when I'm in the studio. When I'm in the studio, when I'm painting, there's a peace that comes over me. There's a tranquility that comes over me. There's a separation of who I am from the rest of the world, that the rest of the world disappears. I'm not concerned about war in the Ukraine. I'm not concerned about how much money I have in the bank. I'm not concerned about the construction that's going on here or whatever's going on there. Only thing I'm concerned with is the connection that I have with the painting that's in front of me. That's it. That's as far as it goes. It's within the framework
Yes,
of the canvas.
yes,
Everything else is gone.
and that's why you're actually confirming what I was saying. Definitely, it's mighty.
No,
It's
if
somewhat almighty. That means that when we start and we are disconnected just the right amount, so we can really be, have that eventual result meaningful, no matter what. It takes some doing, but then it's quickly enough becomes second nature, which is a good thing in itself. But I want to be able to um, have people having a reason to talk about what it is that they witness. It gives them reason to talk about it,
but
because and it's not about good or bad or impressive or not. It's just about presence. So that means it's there, and sometimes you realize I don't want to come across as a weirdo or as a peculiar individual. I'm going to pay attention to it because what do they say? It calls for one, and so then when you do that, you say, wait a second, how did I miss that? A lot of people tip, and now when I show the work from 2006, in the last three shows of mine, I introduced 4 or 5 pieces from 15, 20 years ago. I don't even think about it. It just happened. And a lot of people telling me things about it. And I said, oh my God, if I would have felt so good about myself, as I should have, according to what they say, I would probably be,
see, my
you
feeling
know?
is that if you took Bruegel, for example, whose paintings are bizarre, they're depictions of hell, they're depictions of what life is like in hell, what happens to humans in hell. If you took that painting, you took that person, and he does that painting, or she does that painting, when they're finished with the painting, they're done. And if they went back to a happy life, a fulfilled life, it's not going to change that painting the next time they go about doing the painting. What I'm saying is that we have an alternative choice in life, and we picked the road forked at one point, and we picked the fork that said war, and
Well,
war
you
is
can't
going to be.
generalize it, but this
But
level of
but you
conviction
look at
comes
the
from
history.
where?
You look at the
How do you
history.
support that? It's like what, like, and
Every because every
but
society.
is that is to say that the good things do not exist, or
Yeah, good things
uh,
exist, but
and how do you
the
figure out the amount? How do you figure out
there
that this is
isn't a
actually
there
tilting
isn't
the?
there isn't a single society that has existed or exists today that's not at war to some degree or another, or killing other humans to some degree or another, and it has been consistent throughout the history of humankind. If you deleted that, and if you had taken it right from the very beginning and brought it up in paradise, I don't think it would have affected the creativity of the arts one iota. If anything, it may have made it even better because that stress, nobody would have been starving. Nobody would have been having arguments with their neighbors. Nobody would have been building guns. Nobody would have been building weapons of mass
Okay,
destruction.
yeah, okay, but
All
then
of
I
those
have to
things.
stop you because you're just too. I got the point. I appreciate it, but
I mean,
you
just think of the
you're too like tutti frutti. You know, like
no,
okay,
no, no.
no,
It's
no.
the
I mean,
reality is
I
that
know.
instead of having
I
people,
understand. I
the,
understand.
the,
And
the
but then you rub it in a way that is unnecessary. It's well taken. But if we extract the clicheism out of it, and if we extract the being so adamant while going through it, we will be left with something very precious in our hands that it will tell you truthfully. That means if you take a look at it, what you see is accurate. That means this is portraying a reality that you have a certain a good level of certainty that that it's reliable. You know what I mean? You know what to expect. This is not usually the case in life because there's so many layers that are accumulating all over the place, and people don't understand of the importance of house cleaning. You need to sometimes take a little pause and get rid of some crap, you know? And this technical act in itself can achieve and buy you
I would
the space needed to create, period.
I would rather see people who live on the street in cities all over the world and survive from day to day instead of having one nuclear submarine built. And I'd like to see the money that goes into having billions of dollars spilt on one nuclear submarine feed all those people, shelter all those people, put those people to work where they can, help those people mentally where they can, and change the direction that we have taken in life. We have
Uh,
another war going. We have a war in Africa going. We have a war in Haiti going. It's going all over the world. The United States is divided into two different factions,
yes.
and
So,
this
but
doesn't
then
need
again,
to
this is the third
exist.
time I have to stop you. It's Paul way taken. I mean, I understand all this, but we can, we can dwell and dwell and dwell until we cannot dwell anymore. The point is, what does that have to do with us anyway? Wait,
It
wait,
had
wait, 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 wait. It's not even a question. It's just I wonder. Of course it has, but we can choose very easily to say, fine, we got it. We're not dealing with it right now because there's an ongoing thing that there's a friggin' animal that we tamed that now we work together, and I need all the time I have in the world to deal with this. And this is art. This is going when I had my second studio with it's Sylvia Tenenbaum. Remember my precious, wonderful, 17 years. I used to go there like a king, like a king, because I was a king. I had everything I needed, everything. I was so completed in this whole whatever you want to call it. It was so flawless that I couldn't believe that I couldn't believe that I couldn't go wrong. And it was really that I couldn't go wrong because I kind of maintained that immediate vicinity so meticulously, and it was a really nice, smooth ride, as they say, smooth yet sophisticated, complex, challenging, demanding, and you always see results, always see progress. You know better than anyone in the world, I think, that you can know the importance of self valuing long before someone tells you you're so great, and therefore you say, wow, I guess I can be happy about that,
I
have a
never.
happy moment. But it's not that, it's because you know that the way to prepare for that is by doing the thing itself that supposedly later on will be the first time that you're actually doing it, but you will do it before only so you can master certain things that are crucial for survival and pretend that you didn't. And then you go on and then you start for the first time and it just works for everyone.
It was very interesting. Last night, somewhere in the middle of the night, I was awake and I started thinking about this painting. And I started thinking, I
Can you give
thought,
it to me so I can show it while you lecturing us? Okay, go on lecturing, my friend.
you have to hold it at a certain light because the glaze
Please,
reflects.
please.
I was thinking last night, where does this come from? What part of me, inside of me, does this come from? And there's a part that just flows out, and there's a balance to things. It's like, um, it's just there. I don't think about it. I've developed my craft over the years, and that's the smallest landscape I've ever painted. You know the size of most of my landscapes, and it's hard to see that because there's so many glazes on that sometimes it looks blue, sometimes it looks gold. Um, and that painting had sat in my studio for about 3 years and hadn't finished it. And I looked at it a couple of days ago and I said, I've got two trees and a barn to paint. How hard is this? Finish the damn painting. So I took down the big abstract, which I'm going to finish next, put this up, redid the sky, redid the glazes, put in the trees, put in the barn, and worked on the grass a little bit, looked at it, signed it, and I looked at it and I said, I really like the painting. Where this comes
So
from
usually the
inside, I
shine
don't
of
know.
your light is orange a little bit all the time, rusty. No,
No,
what?
that's the gold in it. That's the metallic gold in it.
Yeah, but what? How does it give you the feel that it's erupting and not necessarily just laying there? You know what I mean?
Because there's depth to it. There are layers and layers and layers.
So eventually you have to introduce the white to it.
You have to
Plain
bring.
white.
You have to bring. There's no white in there
No, I
actually.
know, but there is at some point some white there that is
There's.
carefully embedded
It
with the.
looks like white, but it's not.
Yeah,
In
but if
relationship
it
to
looks
other
like white, then
colors,
it's white.
you know,
It's
in,
that's the beauty.
gray is white compared to black. And I don't use black. I never paint with black, but it's it the very top of the painting is all metallic. It's gold, it's silver, it's blue. It's just the way the paintings develop. Um, I would just like to see. I mean, I said this is the last landscape I'm going to do. I don't know if it'll be the last landscape. I think what I'd like to do is one more really big landscape.
You know that apropos what you're saying now, I decided that I'm going to start drawing and painting, fine painting. I'm building up something in my head. I mean, my head is building up something in my head. It's funny. I'm not responsible for that. I see myself sometimes doing in a portrait of an object, and some kind of a background, So I thought I could be very unforgiving, in my paintings, and if I'll be courageous enough to do it, then maybe I'll be happier with it than I can imagine. I'm kind of have a feeling I'll be surprised. Going for the vase with flowers.
You've got to start someplace,
Yes, yeah.
and
So
and
I'm thinking,
and there's no fear.
it's like I know, it's like a
What's
poem.
going to happen? You make a
But
mistake.
of course, yeah. I,
Just so over it.
I'm the landlord of mistakes, so
I mean, that's how you learn. Um, Somebody asked me the other day, "Do you draw your paintings out?" And I go, "No." Well, how do you get it to be where it is? I go, I see it and I paint it. That's all. I
yeah.
mean, it's up here, and it just, I there's a there's there's it's been consistent all my life where there's a moment, a fraction of a second, where the tip of the paintbrush is a fraction of an inch away from the canvas. It's got paint on it. The canvas has got its gesso on it. And there's that moment where all the doubts in your life come together. Do I still know how to paint? Do I know what to do? Do I know what I'm going to do with this painting? I have no idea. And all of a sudden, the brush touches the canvas and your world disappears. You disappear. Everything that you know disappears. And the only thing that exists is you literally watch your hand paint. Lenore took a great photograph. It's my favorite photograph of all the portraits that have ever been done of me. Um, I was painting a large painting, and my cat, Lily, was sitting on my shoulder with her paw on my arm for 2 hours as I painted. And I'm painting like this. Her paw is right here. And we're just painting together. And it's like I can feel the energy from this cat flowing into me. I'm not even thinking about what I'm painting because it's automatic. I know what is going to happen. Um, it's an amazing. I think every time you go towards a canvas, when you approach a canvas, and there's this big white thing on the wall, and you approach it, there's that moment where you attack it and you go, what am I going to do with this? I have to cover this with something that has some meaning to it. And I think it's a miraculous moment when you can approach it with a level of comfort, a level of knowledge, and a level of um, I'm not sure what the right ease,
Yeah.
and it never gets
Tranquility.
humility.
Tranquility and
Perfect.
humility.
That's the best word,
Yeah.
humility,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I don't know where this comes from.
And and it shows. I'm sorry.
Why do I do the show?
I I
I'm going to go on.
I
It's too
shouldn't be
bad Joe
saying things like
Franklin's
that.
dead.
But I shouldn't have done that. I apologize.
You know, I can go on Joe Franklin. He can read while I talk.
Yes. I thought about that, so I said at least I have the poetic license to he knows better not to comment on what I'm doing now.
I mean, Joe Franklin never made a comment about anybody's work.
So why is that? Why is that?
There's probably his success. He's sitting behind his desk. He's got his book. He's got famous actors and actresses on.
All over.
I mean, people from all over the world want to be on his show.
Yes.
God only knows why. And he'll have Michael Douglas on, and Michael Douglas will be sitting in the chair, and Joe Franklin will say, "So what's your next project?" And Michael Douglas is talking, and Joe Franklin's reading his book under the desk. And then Michael Douglas will finish, and Joe Franklin will look up, and he'll just say to Michael Douglas, "And what's your next project?" "Back to the book," and he gives Michael Douglas 5 minutes to speak. There was something about that show that, as simplistic, it had one camera. There was no special lighting, no special audience, metal chairs for people to sit in, but it was a cult show, and people wanted to be on it, no matter how successful they were. I mean, it'd be interesting. I think I'll look it up on my phone to see who the people were that were actually on the Joe Franklin show, and even the way you approach the show, you'd call up, he'd answer the phone, and he'd say, "What do you want?" "I want to be on the show." "When?"
Okay.
"When?" "How's Thursday afternoon?" "Fine, be here. Bye." And that was basically it. It was that simple. And you'd show up. There was no makeup. There was nobody there to check your clothes or anything. You were on your own. There was a chair next to him, and you sat there and you answered his questions, and they were pretty generic questions that everybody got. I could be Joe Franklin asking you, So, Haim, what's your next
Yeah.
project?
Thank you.
You know?
Next.
And when you
I-
finish, they go, and what else do you have planned? and
yes.
and the whole half hour or an hour show
That,
basically went, and he just never got into anything. He
you
labored.
speaking of that, I just dug out of this is 100, one out of 524, and I wrote all the 524. So speaking of that, in the spirits, we're with Steve Romm here on Friday morning, but not longer morning, actually early afternoon of August 4th, year 2023, here with the Hello Hello Show. So this is to honor your presence here, and it's called presence. And you see that I'm not making it up. It's called presence.
If I could see that far, I'd accept it.
Yes, saying uh, level-headed, a sign of becoming of an ice age. Top regard slowly setting up a sound barrier, as it is so needed. Lip by adapting senses of change and twists of faith, envisioning a cross through, a little time with soaking edges as considerations, not so sparingly offer a share of knowledge. Slow motion freebase firing a heightened pleasure of presence and hope for an old fashioned stamina, I think, what I should think, what I would think, what I must think, what I prefer to think, what I see fit to think, what I favor to think, what I am most likely to think, a barrier of fullness and a curing trip, a feast of the eyes, a rugged surface for the fact step of a creation fall. Maybe it is it is an act of faith to find the factor of not knowing better than the traveling paint under the close observations of the inventor of color. Something like that. Okay, whatever. You can dig into it. You can find a lot of meaning. You can find nothing. You can be numb. You can be excited. You can be so many things. But the beauty is you write it and you let it be. It's almost like drip. If you really drip, like not splatter drip like what Jackson Pollock or me drip is like put it somewhere and let it kind of travel, you'll be surprised what turns and imperfections are taking constantly place. It's unbelievable. And then you realize early enough that there's so much that you can do nothing about, and therefore you should just leave it alone. Just make sure that it doesn't kind of avalanche you.
I, Lenore said something the other day. She was talking to somebody, and she was showing them some of my work, and she was showing them what I call primitives, but they're not primitives. They're very sophisticated paintings because primitives are all on one level. There's no depth to them. There's no structure to them. My paintings have depth and structure and all kinds of things. And then she showed them some of my surrealistic work, and she showed them the landscapes, and she showed them the abstracts. And the person said, how is he capable of doing all of those things? How can he change from one thing to another? And Lenore's answer, which was absolutely correct, is if an artist doesn't grow and an artist doesn't change, then an artist becomes stagnant and is not producing anything new or anything of quality or worthwhile looking at. It has to grow and change. And I think for me, that's always been essential. I mean, I look back on the earliest things that I used to sell, and I worked with a gallery out in Needham, Massachusetts. I used to do these little 5x7 still lifes. It took me about 10 minutes with oils, with beautiful frames, and they'd buy 10 of them every week. I charge them $65. So I'm making $650 a week less $5 for the frame every week. And they put them in the window and they'd all be gone. So it was sort of my way of getting started into selling artwork. Then they got better and I got into better galleries and it worked its way up. But everything changes. And I think you have to change, you have to adapt, and you have to find things that are new. When I did that, the abstract that's in the house, I don't know where that came from.
I don't know what you're talking about. Which one do you mean? The one I gave you.
the 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 big abstract that I just finished. You know which one
You
it
know, and
is.
how about like five of them? How many times did I tell you this fantasticness needs to be?
Well, it needs the companion that I'm working
What
on
the
now.
heck? A brother, a sister, something.
You always have to have more than one. You can't do one. One is not.
You
One
know what?
doesn't
Maybe,
suffice.
maybe. I mean, for the right reason, I would say that we're better off not having more than one or two because, yeah. I mean, if you were to create the way I kind of wish for you to create, it would be like a game changer in this community. Do you understand that? Yeah.
Well,
I'm not just saying it for the
I
sake of
understand
saying
what
it.
you're saying, but
Yeah, yeah,
do
yeah.
I have the look? There was a period of time.
There's a way to expedite the process, you know,
There was a
without
period.
cheating. I mean,
I understand. There was a period of time where not only was I an agent, but where I had galleries that represented me, that sold everything that I had, and I just don't have that stamina and energy to go out. I need an agent to do what I used to do.
first you need paintings.
I'll produce the paintings. That's not the problem.
I'm sorry, ignore what I said. But you need paintings, and the thing is that um, um, I don't know. I was in the same mood as you are now, uh, prematurely for a long time. Really, I was there. I understand that, and but then faith shows its face, you know, and suddenly, like you say, I looked at this painting and it was there for long enough, and say, what the heck? I need to finish this painting. You picked it up, took this, do that, whatever, made adjustment, varnished it. Thank you, out of the way. You know. So even though it is a small thing like this, but it's huge when you get to that
I
point.
think it takes, for me, uh, I have to finish the abstract that's on the wall now. And as soon as I finish it, I have to put another one up and do another one. There comes a time in your life where you're limited.
I have a huge trouble with the sentence. Um, um, what did you just say? I should have, or as I should.
There comes a time in your life.
Yeah, but as I should have. Yeah, as I should have.
I can't look back.
Um,
What's
you
done
just
is
said as I
done.
should have, so I'm just kind of trying to say, okay,
I'm just saying that there's a time in your life while you're still here, while you're still functioning, that you have an obligation to yourself and others to go
and,
into your studio and paint,
and
because
we
that's what I'm supposed to
and,
do.
and we should be able to acquire what is our task, why are we exactly here, without really expecting too much of a deep kind of.
It's not a
Yeah,
philosophical
yeah, yeah.
thing.
You know, that's exactly it. That's exactly what I'm saying. So without thinking that this, the world depends on the answer now, it's
Nothing's
more
going to change.
casual than one would think,
Right.
and still you can get answers that can enrich your life and can
It
really give
changes.
you.
It changes your life, and it changes my life,
Yes,
and it changes the people around
yes,
us.
yes, and with that I can feel more comfortable than to describe some kind of a holier than thou reality that we could live be- with each other just because we decided to give a hug to one another. Um, but time either heals or messes things up, and
I think we would both agree, having talent, and that's a very loose term, that you have an obligation to produce what you've been given a gift to do, and to get into the studio and produce the artwork that you should, whether
yes.
it's music or painting or sculpture or whatever it is. You have an obligation to produce whatever it is you've been given the gift to do. And, I look at the body of work that I've created over my life. It's pretty substantial. Most of it's been sold, most of it's gone. Nice. Really nice.
I I was
And we now have an added challenge, because that I really like. But is that yours, or is
of course it's mine. What do you mean?
okay?
I
Because
just finished it yesterday.
well, I really like that.
Uh,
because now we're fighting artificial intelligence creating artwork, which does some incredible. I like that too.
it's like a lizard of some kind of,
So
and
I think for me, taking that kind of a landscape and taking my abstract and putting the two together is where my next painting is.
the best painting you and I did together already, and it's actually in one of the offices, Patrice's, and that was
Which one?
amazing. The one that we both did together.
Oh,
Do you remember? Yeah.
yeah.
You sure you remember?
I,
Maybe
it's hard
not.
for me to remember yesterday.
Okay, I was just kidding. We didn't. Okay, listen. We are whether believe it or not, yeah, whether you believe it or not, it's 55 minutes on the air, and
Seems like five.
yeah, isn't it like amazing? So we're gonna be here tomorrow as much as we were here yesterday, and as much as we're here this morning, August 4th, year 2023, on a Friday afternoon. Here with the Yellow Holo Show. And my name is Haim Mizrahi. My guest is Steve Romm. And Steve, I really appreciate you showing up.
I hope your audience really appreciates what you've done as a service for this community over all these years. This is not to be taken lightly. This is a major commitment that you've made, and you've stuck with it, and you've brought things to this community that would never have been brought to this community if you weren't here. So I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, to be able to voice opinions that sometimes you can't get out anyplace else. And, sometimes I have to duck when I leave here because the stones keep flying. But it's been a pleasure, and we hope to do a lot more.
You got it, and vice versa here. Our friendship, you being a mentor, when you know it and when you don't know it. And it forces my life, my creative life, to kind of gain self confidence, which is the number one thing, as especially as artists, that one should walk around with. So I thank you for that, and many more years to come. And keep up the good spirits. Remember that we have ongoing group art shows here at the corridors of LTV. And this week, Steve Romm actually is a part of it. Also, Dennis Lawrence, Chris Leclerc, Aurelio Torres, John Pomanovsky, um, Jody Gambino, and
I'm Mizrahi.
and myself. But there's John Pomanovsky. Did I say John Pomanovsky?
Yeah.
Yes, I said John Pomanovsky. Am I not? And Michael McDowell, of course. So make it your business. We're here 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. The opening is Saturday, August 12th, from 4 to 7. We'll see you soon. Thank you, and again, thank you to my guest, Steve Romm. God bless. See you soon.